The letter arrived folded once, as if it had already been opened by someone else before finding her. It waited on the kitchen table among crumbs and yesterday's mail, pale and official, her name typed with a precision that felt intimate. She did not touch it at first. The kettle screamed itself empty. Outside, a bus hissed past. Her life kept moving while the envelope stayed perfectly still, like it had been holding its breath for years. When she finally slid a finger under the flap, the paper resisted, then gave way with a dry sound that felt louder than it should have. Her hands shook, not from fear exactly, but recognition, the way the body sometimes knows before the mind agrees. She read the first line twice. Then a third time. The words did not change, but the room did. Divorce finalized. Effective date. 3 years prior. She sat down because her knees forgot their purpose. The chair was cold through her thin dress. She counted the floor tiles until the numbers blurred. Somewhere in the distance, a child laughed. She wondered how the world could make that sound at this exact moment, as if joy were a small cruelty practiced without thinking. She searched for a mistake. A clerical error. A wrong name. But the address was hers. The signature was his. The date glared back like an accusation she did not understand. Her mind reached backward, grasping at scenes that now felt rearranged. The year he grew quieter. The weekends he said he worked. The way he slept turned away, not angrily, just absent. She remembered folding his shirts, pressing the creases sharp enough to cut doubt. She remembered telling herself marriages have seasons. This must be winter. Winter always ends. She had believed in endurance the way some people believe in prayer. Stay. Breathe. Love is patient. The letter did not argue. It simply existed, a calm document describing the end of something she was still living inside. The name of another woman appeared halfway down the page. Not hidden. Not apologized for. Married. Legally recognized. Her mouth tasted like metal. She whispered the name once, testing it, then stopped. Saying it felt like letting the woman into the room. She pressed her palm flat on the paper, as if she could smother the words back into ink. 3 years. 3 birthdays. 3 winters she had shared a bed with a man who was, on paper, already gone. She thought of their anniversary dinner last year, the candle guttering between them, his distracted smile. She had reached for his hand and felt him hesitate, just a fraction. She had blamed herself for noticing. She stood up too quickly and the room tilted. The letter slid to the floor, face down, as if ashamed. She left it there. In the bathroom mirror, her face looked the same. No visible crack. No mark announcing devastation. She leaned forward, braced on the sink, and studied the small lines around her eyes, the familiar softness of her mouth. Was this the face of a woman who had been divorced without her knowledge? She waited for something dramatic. A scream. A collapse. Instead, there was a slow, spreading cold, like realizing you have been standing in water for a long time and only now feel how deep it is. Memories sharpened. The day he insisted on separate finances, framed as practicality. The lawyer's office he said he visited for a will. The new suit he wore more often, the one she said made him look younger. She remembered teasing him, saying he was trying to impress someone. He had laughed too loudly. She had laughed with him. That sound returned now, thin and false, echoing inside her chest. She wondered how many moments had been rehearsals for this revelation, how many warnings she had waved away with trust. She called his phone and hung up before it rang. She imagined his voice, the way he would lower it when he felt cornered, gentle, reasonable. She imagined the careful words. The explanations polished smooth. She could not bear them yet. She needed the raw truth first, unshaped by his mouth. She picked up the letter again and read every line slowly, as if studying a language she would need to survive. It detailed property she still lived in. A life she was still cleaning, still cooking inside. The law had moved on without her. It had not asked how she felt. When evening came, she sat on the bed they had shared, the indentation where he slept still faithful. She traced it with her fingers. 3 years. He had kissed her goodnight after marrying someone else. The thought landed quietly, then split something open. Tears came then, not loud, just steady, soaking into the pillow like rain into soil that had been waiting. She cried for the woman she had been, loyal and patient, building a marriage alone while it was being dismantled elsewhere. She cried for the trust she had treated like a home and discovered was only a set. The front door clicked. His footsteps paused, as if he sensed the air had changed. She wiped her face with the back of her hand and stood. The letter lay on the bed between them when he entered, a thin white line dividing the room. He saw it. He stopped breathing for a second. Neither spoke. In that silence, something ended again, softly, without ceremony, the way important things often do. He sat on the edge of the chair like a guest who had overstayed. His hands folded and unfolded without purpose. The room smelled faintly of detergent and something burnt from dinner left unfinished. She did not ask him to sit. She did not ask him anything. The letter lay between them, calm as a sleeping animal. He looked at it instead of her, as if it might explain him better than words ever had. When he finally spoke, his voice arrived smaller than she remembered, careful, practiced, already apologizing by its shape. He said he had meant to tell her. He said there was never a right time. He said it started as a separation in feeling long before the paperwork. She listened the way one listens to rain after learning the roof is cracked. Everything he said fell through her. She noticed details instead. A new crease between his brows. The faint scent of unfamiliar soap. The way his wedding ring was gone, replaced by pale skin that looked newly uncovered. She wondered when she had last noticed his hands. She wondered how many days she had brushed past this absence without seeing it. She asked one question because silence was beginning to hurt more than truth. When? He answered with a date she remembered for different reasons. The month her mother was sick. The week she slept badly and leaned on him for steadiness. He had signed himself free while she held his arm in waiting rooms. The realization did not explode. It seeped. She nodded once, as if he had confirmed a minor appointment. Inside, something folded in on itself, neat and irreversible. He told her about the other woman without being asked. Not a defense, he said. Just honesty. He described her kindness, her patience. He did not say love, but the word hung nearby, breathing. She wondered if this woman knew about her, about the dinners cooked, the bed warmed, the life continued like a performance for an audience of one. She wondered if ignorance would have been kinder. He said the marriage was real now, settled. He said he hoped she would understand. The word understand felt heavy, a box he wanted her to carry away for him. She stood and went to the window. Outside, lights blinked on in apartments across the street. Other lives, mid-evening, intact in their ignorance. She pressed her forehead to the glass. It was cool. She wanted to disappear into the ordinary glow of other people's routines. She asked how he had managed it. The logistics. The lie of daily life. He hesitated, then said practice makes anything easier. He tried to smile. It failed halfway. That was the moment something inside her hardened. Not anger. Clarity. He reached for her arm and stopped himself, as if remembering a rule. She turned. She looked at him fully for the first time. He seemed tired, thinner. Not victorious. She felt no satisfaction in that. She felt only distance, a long stretch of years suddenly empty of meaning. She asked if he had ever felt guilty coming home. He said yes. He said every day. She believed him. That was the cruelest part. His remorse did not repair anything. It only confirmed that he had known exactly what he was doing. They moved through the apartment collecting facts. The house was his legally. He showed her the clause like a teacher explaining a diagram. She learned which furniture belonged to which signature. The couch where she cried belonged to him. The table where she folded laundry belonged to him. Her name existed only in margins. She laughed once, a small sound that surprised them both. It came out wrong. He flinched. She apologized automatically, then stopped. She did not owe him softness anymore. Night settled. He asked where she would go. The question landed like another eviction. She thought of friends who would make tea and whisper sympathy. She thought of hotel rooms with anonymous pillows. She thought of pride. She said she did not know yet. He offered money, help, anything. His generosity came too late, like flowers after the funeral. She declined with a politeness that felt like borrowing someone else's voice. When he left, the door closed gently. He had always closed doors gently. She stood in the quiet that followed. The apartment no longer recognized her. She packed a bag slowly, touching objects she would not take. Photographs. Books with notes in the margins. A life that had been legally erased without bothering to remove the furniture first. She sat on the bed one last time. The indentation was gone now. He had taken his weight with him. She lay down anyway, flat on her back, staring at the ceiling, listening to her own breathing fill the space where a marriage used to be. She stayed with her sister for a while, in a spare room that smelled of old paint and borrowed mercy. The first nights were sleepless, not from tears but from listening. Every sound felt important. Pipes knocking. Cars passing. The quiet hum of a refrigerator doing its job without complaint. She learned how loud absence could be. In the mornings, she folded her blanket with care, as if the room might judge her for taking up space she had not earned. Her sister spoke gently, offered food, filled silences with weather. Gratitude became another weight she carried politely. Days arranged themselves around practicalities. New documents. New passwords. A lawyer who spoke slowly, kindly, as if volume could bruise her. She learned the language of after. Alimony. Settlement. Effective dates. Each word a small hammer tapping the same place. She nodded often. She asked precise questions. She surprised herself with competence. Somewhere inside, a part of her took charge, crisp and distant, moving pieces on a board while the rest of her waited, stunned, in the background. Survival, she realized, did not require hope. It only required motion. She avoided mirrors. When she did catch herself reflected, she searched for a sign of becoming someone else. There was none. She still looked like a woman married too long to a man who had left early. In the grocery store, she stood staring at cereal boxes, overwhelmed by choice, by the small freedoms she had not asked for. She remembered how he preferred one brand, how she had bought it automatically. Her hand hovered, then moved elsewhere. The moment felt ceremonial. She did not cry. She paid and left. Once, she dreamed of him. Not the ending. Not the confrontation. Just a morning, ordinary, where he asked if she wanted coffee. She woke with the answer on her tongue and no one to hear it. The grief changed shape after that. It became quieter, more intimate. It lived in gestures. Reaching for a phone. Saving a story. Turning to comment on something small. Each time, the motion ended in air. She began to understand that loss was not one event but a series of corrections, each one exhausting. The other woman appeared in her life without warning, through a mutual acquaintance who did not know better. A message forwarded accidentally. An invitation declined too late. A name attached to a photograph. She studied the image longer than she meant to. The woman was ordinary. That was the shock. Not beautiful in a cinematic way. Just human. She felt a strange relief. There was no competition to measure herself against. No villain to blame. Only choice. His choice. That knowledge settled like dust on everything, impossible to wipe away. She returned to the apartment once, escorted, to collect the rest of her things. He was not there. The rooms echoed. She moved slowly, touching walls, counting steps. This corner where they argued softly about nothing. That window where he had stood checking his phone, smiling at a message she now knew was not for her. She took a plant she had kept alive for years. She left the rest. On the table, she placed her key, lined up neatly, a small surrender. Time passed because it had to. Seasons changed with an indifference that felt personal. She learned new routes through the city. New habits. She laughed once, unexpectedly, at a joke told by a stranger. The sound startled her. She waited for guilt. None came. Instead, there was a fragile sense of permission. Not happiness. Just space. One evening, alone in her sister's kitchen, she realized she had not thought of him all day. The realization hurt more than remembering. It felt like betrayal of a pain she had grown used to carrying. She went to bed early that night. As she turned off the light, she noticed her breathing had slowed. The room held her without question. For the first time since the letter, There was no immediate ache demanding attention. Just a quiet, unfamiliar stillness. She lay there, eyes open, listening to her own life continuing, unsure whether to grieve what was gone or fear what might come next. She moved into a small place of her own when summer thinned into fall, a second-floor walk-up with a stair that complained and a window that faced nothing important. The landlord handed her keys without ceremony. She held them like proof of citizenship in a country she had not chosen. The rooms were bare. The silence was not. It followed her from corner to corner, curious, waiting to see how she would behave without witnesses. She unpacked slowly, giving each object permission to exist again. The plant went by the window. It leaned toward the light like it remembered how. Work filled her days. Familiar tasks, familiar faces. People avoided asking. She appreciated that more than sympathy. In the quiet hours, she began to write lists. Groceries. Repairs. Small intentions. Drink water. Walk. Sleep. The lists worked better than feelings. At night, she cooked simple meals and ate them standing, as if still unsure she deserved a chair. She noticed how hunger returned on time now. How tiredness made sense. The body, relieved of pretending, began to speak plainly again. He appeared once more, not in person. A message. Polite. Brief. He asked if she had received a document. He hoped she was well. She read it twice and deleted it without answering. The absence of reply felt like an answer she had been rehearsing for years. Later, she cried. Not for him. For the version of herself that would have replied quickly, carefully, afraid of seeming unkind. That woman felt very far away, and the distance felt earned. One afternoon, while sorting old papers, she found a receipt from a trip they never took. A promise written in ink and cancelled by time. She sat on the floor and let the grief come as it wanted, without narrative, without correction. It moved through her like weather, intense and brief. When it passed, she felt empty but clean. She folded the receipt and placed it in the trash. The sound it made landing was small, decisive. She did not retrieve it. She began to notice beauty again, cautiously. Light on brick. The sound of someone practicing piano poorly and sincerely. A woman on the bus braiding a child's hair. These things did not fix her. They reminded her that the world continued to offer itself without conditions. One evening, she laughed with a neighbor over a shared annoyance, a laugh that came easily, without checking its loyalty. She walked upstairs afterward feeling taller, as if something inside her had stood up. There were still moments. A song in a store. A phrase overheard. The word husband catching in her throat like a foreign object. She learned to pause when they arrived. To breathe until they passed. She stopped asking why he had done it. The question had no remaining utility. Choice, she had learned, did not always arrive wearing reasons. Sometimes it simply arrived and left wreckage behind, unconcerned with explanation. On the anniversary she no longer claimed, she woke early and went for a walk. The city was quiet. She crossed a bridge and watched the water move without memory. She thought of the years she had lost and the years she still had, unmarked, waiting. The thought frightened her less than it once had. She understood now that survival was not loyalty to pain. It was loyalty to breath, to the simple fact of being here. That night, alone in her apartment, she opened the window. Air moved through the room, rearranging curtains, touching the plant. She lay on the bed, fully stretched, occupying the space without apology. Somewhere, a door closed. Somewhere else, a life continued that no longer included her. The knowledge rested gently. She closed her eyes and listened to her own breathing, steady, unshared, and for the first time, it felt enough.